For those of you who don't know, Daniel is the son of Peter Qvortrup. Is the founder of AudioNote UK. And Daniel is here with us. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
And the first thing that strikes almost everyone that listens to an AudioNote system is that the loudspeakers can be placed real close to the walls and almost everyone at the corners. So tell us a bit about this.
Well, it's it's definitely something that a lot of people ask us about when they come into the room. But something to consider is that actually when you look back in speaker history, a lot of speaker designs actually did go in the corners originally. You know, you think of these very early speakers, and even up until the 60s, you had like clips and everything like that. Of course, the view now is that you bring the speakers into the room to escape the effects of the room. But actually, originally, back many years ago, people were doing it the exact opposite, to have the same effect. And realistically, particularly in a place like England, most living spaces, it's kind of hard to accommodate a speaker in the middle of your room.
Many places aren't that big.
True.
Yeah.
True. So we find that actually it makes it very versatile and it fits into most people's living environments. But there's also because we've embraced it, we actually use the room boundary to our advantage. Most of our speakers are ported. They have a rear port, which helps essentially use the room boundaries with a bit of a horn effect.
Yeah.
So you're kind of getting a mixture of the conventional driver, but also this loaded sort of horn sound
into the room.
Yeah, which gives it a different sense of scale and helps it reach deeper frequencies than most people expect from an 8-inch driver.
Sure. And coming back a little bit, so you're the son of Peter, but your mother also has a very important role in the company.
Oh, absolutely.
Is she still active?
She's still active in the company, as is my sister, Emily. So, since my father founded AudioNote UK in 1991, both him and my mother have been running it together, essentially.
Okay.
So my father has a lot of the big ideas and does a lot of the traveling, and of course is a well-known personality, but my mum has always worked hard behind the scenes on the administrative side, making sure the things have structure and the production can run. And in many respects, my sister Emily, she's also she's now covering a lot of the operations and things like that. While I travel, do these shows, and play my obnoxious music to people around the world.
Yeah, and your father is an avid collector of records.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I've heard in a while that he also started the company to fund his taste and his collection. Is this true?
I would say yes, to a degree. He started off by selling audio, which is where he gained a lot of his insights into different designs and different disciplines in audio. And I think he was at heart always just a music lover, and that was always the driving force behind his pursuit of developing equipment that would reproduce it faithfully. My father probably has now more than 100,000 records in his collection, some of which have overspilled into my house because there's just no space for him at his. But I feel very privileged because it's given me a great opportunity to learn about the history of music. My father and I exchange music, but my mother as well. She's a big music fan. You know, she was listening to Queen a lot when I was growing up, and I just assumed that they had to be the greatest band in the world because of that. So
Okay. Walk us through a little bit at what you do at your factory. You produce almost everything, or
so the factory in general.
yeah, in general.
So we actually have 3 factories. So the principal one is, you know, our HQ, which is in the south of England, a little town called Partridge Green. So there we make most of the electronics, but also a lot of the internal components. It's not always obvious at these shows, but we actually make pretty much everything inside our equipment. So we have our own range of resistors, we make our own foil capacitors, we have our own electrolytic capacitors that are made specially for us, and we also make our transformers in-house, both the winding and the assembly, and even the dipping. So we have quite a variety of processes going on under just one roof. Then in Austria, that's where we have our speaker production, because they're able to get this very beautiful cabinet work that it's been hard to find a supplier that will match what they do anywhere else. And they've been great to work with. So so in Austria, that's where our speakers are made.
All right. And I've heard that you're going to have a field coiled loudspeaker.
So we actually have those already. We officially launched them last year, but we wanted to have them released in time for. So this year is actually the 100th anniversary of the moving coil speaker.
Okay.
So it was.
Maybe not everyone is familiar with the technology. Can you just explain us a little bit how it works?
So essentially, most moving coil speakers you have, you know, sort of conventional drivers, those are essentially, they all use permanent magnets. In most cases, ferrite. Maybe if they want to take it a bit further, alnico. And in some cases neodymium and things like that. But field coils are actually the earliest of that technology, of magnet technology.
Yeah.
So 100 years ago, they wouldn't have had permanent magnets strong enough to achieve the kind of results they were looking for. It would have been much too expensive to have a giant permanent magnet. So the way around that was to have an electromagnet, and this is what the field coil is. So you have a pole piece with a coil of wire wrapped around it, and then you drive a current into it to create the magnetic field.
Yeah.
So ironically, 100 years ago, that was the more affordable and more realistic way of doing it. Now it's the opposite. Now with permanent magnet technology, it's much cheaper to get a ferrite magnet, and you know, generally speaking, they do a pretty good job. We use them in our range, but the field coil has a presentation that is massively superior. It even took us by surprise how much of a difference that made in comparison to both ferrite and alnico.
So nowadays it will be the top of the line.
So that is now the top of the line in our range, which makes the A&E, which is our largest speaker. It makes it a unique example. You can actually hear 3 different magnet technologies in that now, because we have it available with ferrite, with alnico, and now field coil. So you can actually compare what these different driving.
And they sound different, actually.
Very different.
Yeah.
Very different.
Okay. And walk us through a little bit how you classify your systems, because it starts with level 1 up to
So it actually starts off with level 0.
level 0.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So so there's actually so it runs from level 0, which is the entry level, up to level 6.
Up to 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my father's written a few articles on our website, which you can find on our articles page, that explains this in a bit more detail. But essentially, it's groupings of products that have that sort of sit in those different price bands. So you can mix levels. It's for a lot of our customers, this is how they kind of move up the range.
Yeah.
It generally speaking, our equipment holds its second-hand value quite well. So it actually makes some of the higher level systems much more attainable. Even if people, you don't have to be a millionaire necessarily.
Yeah.
We have people. It's just people who they've spent time with the level 1 product, for example, an Otto, which is one of our kind of signature products. They live with that for a few years, and then they move up to a MyShoe, sell the Otto one, and that means they can afford a MyShoe, which is level 3, for example.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting structure. As I say, there's a lot more to it than that, but
Yeah.
I'm conscious it's a short interview, so.
You stay within the analog and maybe the CD playing.
Yeah.
You don't do streaming.
We don't do streaming. A lot of people ask us if we would make a streamer, and I'm sure we could probably make a pretty decent streamer, but it's a very different philosophy to ours. Essentially, I'm following my dad's philosophy of essentially being very music focused. In many respects, we don't feel that streaming really serves music that well. I think it has its place. There's a great convenience to it, and I know people who've made very decent streamers out there. But for us, we don't think that any of them have really come close to just standard Redbook, 16-bit CD, which I know is going to be a controversial opinion, but
Yeah.
we're sort of used to being a little bit controversial.
Sure. Any plans for the future?
Wow, many plans. We have several projects underway, including on the CD side. We think that there's great potential. CD still has much more potential than has been explored yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got some exciting things coming along. A new CD transport, and also a new DAC, which we hope the DAC maybe for the end of this year, and then the CD transport for next year.
All right. So thank you, Daniel.
It was
a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Do you have like a tour that you organize for people that want to go see you?
If you talk to the mic,
Well, most of the tours that have happened at the factory have kind of been on an informal basis. Of course, there's been a few magazines and things that have visited, but it depends a little bit on our schedule. I've sometimes joked we should charge for it, but it doesn't feel in the right spirit. But if someone's in the area and we can accommodate it into our routine, which is usually pretty busy, we're always quite open to showing people the factory, because really there's a lot to tell about our products, and it's hard when you walk in, at a show and you see a few boxes there. It's hard to know exactly what's gone into that. There's always a lot of work and a story behind everything there. So it's the tours do happen, but it depends on our calendar.